We here. Big fish shit. Ooh, ooh. Welcome to the podcast. Hope y'all enjoy it. Hope y'all learn something. And most importantly, we hope y'all elevate. Let's get it.
Big fish, hit a big lick. We gon' bet it right back and hit a big flip. We been up for a minute and we still lit. Get them cats gon' talk, but we don't feel shit. We just giving y'all gems y'all can live with. Elevate your mind, never mind all the bullshit. Finna talk about stocks, we ain't worry about ops. First get the bread up, then buy back the whole block. 10 toes down, we ain't never gonna stop. I'm a man of my word, I ain't never gonna flop. If I said it, then I meant it. Real ones gon' respect it, and it's still OG. It's in me, I represent it.
No more edits, no nothing. I got my big bro on the show, Jim Dorey.
Cheers.
I'm excited. First guest for a reason. First guest for a reason. I'm OG Big Fish Podcast.
Yeah.
Author of Just Keep Swimming. Make sure you get that. And I don't even have to tell everybody to go buy it because I'm confident that by the end of this conversation, they'll be running to the stores to go get it, to learn about the man behind this handsome face, who I have the pleasure of calling my big bro. Thank you for joining us.
Dak, I'm so grateful to be here, brother. I appreciate it so much. And like you said, the book I said in it, I said, hey, I don't have to help a lot of people. If it helps just one person and make a change somewhere, it was worth the effort. And some of the feedback that I got along the way from people I really respect has been really overwhelming. And it was very very grateful for the people to take time to read it.
Well deserved. And like I said, a lot of people have people come on their shows who they didn't read the books. I actually read this, went back, had to, read it. Actually went back and read some chapters twice.
You might know it better than me.
Yeah, well, because it hit me so hard because it's, and I think that'll be the overall theme. And one of the things that I look up to you is the fact that you're able to balance. You're able to balance life with a career, with family, with friends, all of these different areas, which is probably the hardest thing for me, feeling as if I'm not getting enough done, So that's something that I definitely commend you for and look up to. And that was my biggest takeaway. So I'm always going back, using it as a playbook, no more football playbook, just have life playbook. So this is always on the desk.
Well, I'll tell you what, for as young as you are and as far as you come already and all that you accomplished, it's pretty amazing. And you inspire me also. And this book really came about. Somebody told me, a few years back, hey, journal every day, write something down, something you learn, something personal, something about business. And I did. I did it for 6-7 years. And then one day I just kind of looked at all of it and I said, you know what, for a younger me, some of these tips, maybe they could have got me somewhere a little bit more quickly. Some of the things you learn about family and life, it's not always perfect. And I'm going to learn today and I'm going to learn tomorrow. Mm-hmm. But some of what I put there, I said, hey, if I could help somebody get three months better or a year better or 5 years better, then that's fantastic. And that's what it's all about.
And I just picked up on something you said. If the younger version of me, if I could have given myself, the younger version of me, some game to kind of learn different lessons a little bit faster, that's something that I heard in a podcast that you sent me that was one of the things that hit me the most, where it was, you are best equipped to teach, coach the younger version of yourself.
Yeah, people just like you, correct.
Right. And let's get into the younger version. Where'd you grow up? How was your upbringing? Let's hear it.
Yeah, working class in New Jersey, not too far from where you grew up. We had a family business. It was a deli, like a neighborhood corner store, which, gave me some life lessons that at the time I didn't really realize. But we had every character of life come through there. And just hearing, the guy who was working hard all day kind of giving his advice. And I was, from literally 11 years old washing pots back there through college, working there. And just some of these people became like a second family. And it was cool. They'd come in and we'd laugh. And some of the older guys, I'd say, hey, you solving the world's problems today? And if you listened, you got some real good advice. And I still think back to that. So that was a part of it. Then I went to state school here at Montclair State University, which was phenomenal. I was able to live and work through it. And then I got, through a couple different sales jobs and just good people along the way, which I talk about, good people that gave me opportunities and reached out a hand to help me. And that's what, fortunately, I got to a spot where I'm able to do more of that myself. And I realized how much that really is the success. It's your family, it's what you do, it's what people say about you when you're not in the room, that I learned is really what it's all about.
Reputation.
Yeah.
Reputation. And what you said in the beginning of that, I think everybody should really listen to, where you said, if you listen, you can get some good advice. And that's something that, a lot of times the information is out there. We're getting it from our parents, we're getting it from different people, but for some reason we're not able to kind of just grasp the advice, from a young age. How did you learn that at such a young age to where, maybe I should listen to some of the things that the older folks are telling me?
I didn't learn at such a young age. I always had an answer for something, but I tell you, like I said in the beginning here, it's like you got a train coming at you. You see this light at the end of the tunnel. Sometimes it's light, it's opportunity. Sometimes it's a train coming at you. But when you're growing up and, I could tell you, hey, Dak, that's a train. It's going to hurt you. You better get out of the way. And you're going to say, no, I got this. I don't think it's really a train. And you got to learn the hard way. And I learned a lot of hard lessons. I used to laugh early on in my career. I said I outsmarted myself many times, with opportunities going different ways. But it got to be over time that people who took an interest, and I just watched people who I admired and respected and see the way that they acted. And then I got to say, hey, I got an opportunity to get exposure to some really good people. I got to hear what they have to say. What I know what I know, but I got to hear what they have to say. So over time, and even in marriage, my wife will tell you, it took me some time to listen better. So I think I'm getting better at that.
Yeah. And I think she would say the same. I'm pretty sure he's the perfect husband. I'm sure she would say that. But it's funny, you mentioned in the book.
You're going to have to edit that. She will not say that.
Sam,
we love you, yes.
Sam, the perfect husband. And of course, only because you're the perfect wife, though. But you mentioned the train coming. Yeah. Tell that, I'm going to focus in on the story. You can elaborate on it. Sure. But to me, going back to the point where, giving the game to the younger version of yourself, you said in the book where if you can, you talked about how if you already know what's coming down, it makes it a lot easier for you to tell somebody else. If you've been in a lot of those tunnel situations where you got a train coming at you, it helps prepare you, learn those lessons, and then gives you the ability to pass it along to the next person. So Anthony doesn't have to go through it. Correct. Anthony, his son.
Correct. So, yeah, it's funny. I just had this conversation with somebody today. We're talking about people who say, oh, money isn't everything. Money isn't happiness. It doesn't change your life. And I said, when you're early and you're scrapping and you're trying to get it, you hear somebody say that and you say, oh, you say that because you have the money. And then as people get more successful and they have more things, once you could take care of your family, you got a house, you got food, you're not having to worry about the next check. It gets a little different. And it isn't about, what's the zeros in your bank account or whatever. You start to really realize that is not going to make you super happy. And you look around, and I remember being really young in the company I was in, and I got to sit in some of the first board meetings, and I'm looking around the room at some very, very wealthy, successful people. And at that age, I kind of looked around. I said, I don't know that I would trade places with any of them right now. And for me, that was a good sign for myself saying, hey, that's good. You're content. You're happy with what you are. You're going to do more, but money isn't it. And you see that more and more. And the people you talk to is, as I get older and the career goes along, the people you talk to are more established, and you hear that a lot. And, recently I heard somebody say, he asked, he deals with a lot of billionaires, and he says, I always ask them, would you give up all your money if you're, 80 years old now? Would you give all your money to be your 20-year-old self then and go back in time? And every one of them says yes, because the money is not going to take you further. Mm-hmm.
It's the time.
Yeah.
It's the time, the impact that we make on people. Money isn't everything. Like you said, when you're younger, like even right now, I get into debates with my group chat where I'm like, no, money is everything. Like money is everything. It impacts
everything. It's important.
Everything.
It is.
But it's a tool. It's a tool that can alleviate some pain in different areas, soothe certain things, but there has to be that balance where, like that was my main takeaway from, Just Keep Swimming, with a focus on, it's not like you sat here and said that, oh, well, there's nothing to do with your success. You know what I mean? And you said that success aligns with happiness, or it should align with your happiness in different areas. But that's something that I struggle with, being young. I'm kind of just, forget being happy.
Sure.
Like I don't care. Like the more pain, better. The more uncomfortable situations, the better. Like I got to go out there and get it. How did you get to that point to where you're seeing things from the mature standpoint that you see?
Yeah, listen, I'm evolving too. I mean, you'll see somebody who says, I surf all year long. I travel the world. I have nothing. I live out of a bag and I surf, and they're super happy. And I look and I say, that's great for you. You got somebody else who says, I founded a company. I work 150 hours a week. I don't see my family at all, but my mission is to drive this company because I think it's that important. And that's great for them too. You got to find your balance. And for me, and again, it is not like I have the answers. I say here, I'm going to learn, learn yesterday, I'll learn tomorrow. But that answer keeps coming to you and say, what is success going to be for you? And I remember early on, again, meeting a lot of people that made a lot of money, and they would talk about their kids and, my kids, my kid's in Florida for rehab. I haven't talked to my kid. My kid's got this issue. And my wife and I would talk about it. And she said, why are so many people in that situation? I said, yeah, I don't know. I said, we're going to do everything we can to not be in that situation. So stay home, do the, skip some of the things that could be fun, but take care of your family. And to me, my reality was if my kids didn't do well and don't do well, then that's not really a successful career. And there are balances. There's people who are going to tell you, you got to put all your time into it. You got no time for family. And again, if that's what you want, that's great. And I don't judge anybody any different way because I don't know what the right answer is. Mm-hmm. I know for me, if you're miserable all day at work, and there was times during my career where the grind was very, very tough, and you finally come home, you're just burnt and spent, and that's not fair. Your family's there, and they need you, they get to see you. So how do you find that time to give them 100% and be, I think what I realize is you got to be you at home, at work, the same. You can't be happy at work and then, checked out at home. That's not fair. And I get a lot more out of it. It's, the quality time makes the world of difference. So again, I'm still learning it, and the answers may change, but you got to be every day waking up, charging and feeling good about it. And really, if you're dreading it, if you're dreading what you do or the people you're dealing with, I made a career change only about a year ago, related. But I said there was some things that were changing in the people I was dealing with. And I said, a year from now, I can't be here. And it was a commitment I made to myself and nobody else. And that turned out to be what I did.
It's funny because when I think back to where I would see, I guess, one of my greatest successes, making it to the NFL.
No doubt. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. And the reason why I say I guess is because I was such a shitty person. Like I don't think that my friends would say it, but more so with my family and stuff, where I just wasn't happy. It was very stressful, a lot of anxiety. Here you are, you're seen in this, position where you've quote unquote made it. That it's not guaranteed. You're an injury away, tripping down the stairs or playing basketball, coming down on your best friend's foot, whatever it is.
Sounds like just a story.
Right, yeah. But whatever it may be, I realized later on down the line, I got a conversation with my brother. He's like, yeah, you weren't really that, pleasant to be around. And I get it. And I think they understood it. So that's what was so, I was so fortunate, the support system there. But that's not success. If you're just making it in a certain area, but then, to your family and your friends, you're not really the person that you should be to them. It can tear away at a bunch, and it doesn't feel that good.
Well, I'll tell you what, you helped me to understand that. Obviously, it's hard to make it to the NFL. I understood that prior, but the way you describe it and the work that you got to put in, and you got to be perfect, and you got to outwork everybody else, and they're always looking to upgrade the team, so they're always looking to take you out, and you are a commodity at that point. So you make that easy to understand, but probably you couldn't have done what you did if you didn't make those sacrifices. And that's the same as some entrepreneur who's going to live in their office or in their factory as they just crank it out for hours and days and years. And sometimes it fails, but they couldn't have got to where they were. So I look at everything and say, you know what? Every piece of it made you what you are today. And you got to realize it at a much younger age. I mean, there's people that, they make this career and they're 65 and they say, great, I got millions, I could retire, and nobody talks to them and they got nobody. And that's failure to me. You know, again, maybe for them not, but you got it early and you understood. I don't know that there's a way to be in that league or similar leagues and not give it 100% and not come home. And, you know, I had a friend, his brother coached at Notre Dame, and he talked about having his kids, and I said, oh, that must be cool. Does he bring his kids to the facility sometimes? He started laughing. He said, he doesn't see his kids during the season. Yeah. He says it's all year long. They're in there hours on hours and hours. And when the season ends, they're on the road recruiting. And until you're in that, and then you hear what it takes to make it work, nobody else knows. So the way you do it and the way you achieve it, you had the right plan because it worked, right? There's a lot of other people that tried to do it. They were miserable and they didn't make it there.
Yeah, and it's a good point because it's the entire organization. It's the coaches. I had a newfound respect for the coaches, scouts. As soon as the season's over, I'm thinking they have long hours then, but then they're just on the road, moving around, recruiting, spotting new talent here and there. But it's a tough gig. But you brought up something that everything that you're saying is triggering different things in me. And it's because I was motivated by fear, I think. And I think that's what a lot of these competitive environments like the NFL, you're really motivated by the fear of getting cut the next day. And when I'm talking
That's real.
And the coaches, they'll tell you, they'll say, hey, that seat that you're sitting in, yeah, doesn't have your name on it. And they'll always let you know, like, you need to be available. You know, oh, you're injured? Okay, well, there's a difference between being injured and hurt. And they'll let you know. And I get it. You know, a lot of times their lives are on the line. You know, their livelihood is on the line just as much if you're not performing up to, you know, a certain standard. So it's tough, but I don't necessarily run from the motivation from fear, but it can take a toll on you. So I do want to be motivated in a different way as I mature, you know, because the fear, you know, that's what has you not being yourself.
Yeah, you can't be full adrenaline 24/7 every day. That's not a life. That's like living on a razor blade, right? Mm-hmm. So you got that, but you already know the perspective that you're trying to get, which is more than people are going to get. So you're ahead of that. So I feel good for you on that for sure. And that's part of what makes you special because you're okay talking about that and saying, hey, that got me there. Do I need to have that same kind of drive to get to what I want tomorrow? Maybe you do. I mean, you got big ambition. So, you know, I have no doubts, you know, the sky's the limit for you. I said, this guy could be the president for sure of the United States because you got the personality that fills a room. You got the energy. You can walk into any room. And that's, you know, when you talk about your younger self, that's one of the things I learned a long time ago too. I talk about in here. I was able to go to a program at Harvard Business School. You know, my company sent me, I was, you know, married. My kids were, you know, younger. You had to go live on the campus for 2 months, but it was a phenomenal opportunity. It's a very select group. But going up there, there's 150 executives from like 70 different countries, and they were big, big jobs. And even being a grown man and an adult and a parent, I'm walking up there saying, am I going to be able to hang with these people? You know, is this going to work out? They're super smart. They're super successful. What is it? But what I quickly realized is, and that's where growing up, you know, and learning at a young age and learning from the streets also, it helps you to size people up and understand. And it didn't take me very long to look around and I said, everybody's got the same exact thought going through their head. It might be going through in a different language, but they are thinking the same thing. And I think of one story, there was we did an early negotiation drill. And the fella that they put me with was, he's now a general in the Marines, Frank Donovan, which, you know, thank you for your service, Frank.
Thank you.
Phenomenal guy, phenomenal guy. So we're sitting down to negotiate some pretend deal with two very successful financial executives from, you know, different parts of the world. And so we're making our strategy. Now, this is where the naive part of me, this is a guy who's strategized, you know, for very high risk things with thousands of people and, you know, world peace. And I'm giving him some advice on how we should negotiate. But I said, listen, they're number guys. We're not. So if they start trying to talk numbers, we got to stay away from that. And we stuck with it. Yeah, play your strength. And God bless Frank because he stuck with it. And it was just funny. We did very well in it. But you kind of look back and I said, you know what? I can be in any room. Mm-hmm. There's no room now that I wouldn't fear or think that I'm outclassed or there's smarter people. And there's gonna be smarter people, but the skills that make you good at what you do and make you real and you listen and communicate with people translate into any room in any situation. And that's something that I wish I knew a lot earlier.
and the perspective walking in the room. Because even if you feel that way, it's almost like you have to have a certain balance between humility and confidence, where it's, you want to be the person in the room that I want to be in a room where everybody, is smarter than me, is wealthier, is more successful, because that means I'm going to learn the most. I'm going to get the most out of this room. That's how I'm looking at it. But I also want to walk in the room and know that, there's a certain respect level where they know that, hey, I have a certain level of value that I can bring to the table as well. And maybe my lane may be a little bit smaller, but I can show you some things in my lane as well.
Yeah, and that's a great point. I talk about that one a lot, because you know more about some things than I will ever know about those specific things. There's some things that I'm going to, just know more because of what I do. But you don't know. You got to listen to people, and you got to get in the room and hear them. But you're always going to bring something to the table. It might be, they could be talking about engineering, which I know nothing about, but the process and the conversation and the negotiation, I can help. I can help in any situation there. So that's one of those things when I'm talking to younger people, and I always, whether it's asked for or not, I see somebody good, I just want to talk with them and kind of give them just some pointers that have helped me. And I say, listen, there's going to be a time, your reputation, which we talked about earlier, is everything. And you don't get to choose. There's going to be a time when there's people in a room talking about an opportunity or promotion. You don't know who's in the room. You don't know that they're mentioning your name. You need as many fans as you could possibly make. And how do you do that? By being a good person, being outgoing, getting to know everybody, following up, doing your job, being great at the job that you do today. So when that happens and that door closes and there's 6 people talking about you, they're nodding their head and going, yeah, Dak, he's a great guy. He could kill. He is the perfect person. And a bunch of other people are nodding their heads. That's how you're going to set yourself up to just keep growing and succeeding in whatever you do.
Mm-hmm. And you talk about reputation a lot. And I think it's good for everybody to understand, ourselves included. You can't fake it. You can't fake it. The only way to improve a reputation is, in my opinion, is to demand more out of yourself and set a higher standard for yourself. Like, if you set a higher standard for yourself, then you're going to be consistently doing different things that are going to align with that new standard and live up to that new standard, rather than, just trying to come in a room faking it. It's your reputation.
Yeah, I'll tell you too, Dak. I used to, you'd see somebody speak up on a stage and I would be like, man, so polished. They sound so good. And I go back to a story when you say, when you're younger and not taking advice. I was in college and it was a public speaking class, and the professor grabs me after the class and she says, I want to help you. You have the classic North Jersey tough guy accent and we got to help you lose it. And I gave some real smart ass comment to her, and I declined to take the advice. And I used to think, I'd go into rooms and say, do I sound like, you sound like you're in a movie, like Bronx Tale or something. And I'd say, do I sound less intelligent because I sound that way? And for a while I would be, aware of it and say, maybe I should have took her advice. It took me a long time. And then I said, you know what? One day somebody was speaking, and he was he was a guy from Brooklyn or whatever, but now he was a CEO of this company. And he was so authentic, and he was just him. He wasn't trying to be polished. He knew his stuff, and he was motivational. And I said, you know what? You don't have to sound a certain way to be great. If you got the content and you're authentic about it and you care, and that's the thing that I realize more and more is just be open what you think and what you hear and what you feel in business. When you're talking to people, they could sense it and you could sense it. Like you said, your reputation is, if you're a phony and you're always nodding your head yes, and you got to be real. You got to do what you say you're going to do. You got to listen to people. There's one, as you know, I listen to a lot of podcasts because I'm always sending them to you too, if I think it's going to be one you appreciate. And the one guy, he talks to them, I think it's Ed Milet, and he talks to them and he'll say, your face just changed when you mentioned that. And in my head, I'm thinking, this guy's listening so well that he's also studying your face and your body language. That's another level that you want to get to. And, it's something that I learned, and I'll work on it for sure. I'm sure there's some science behind it. But to me, if you're looking at somebody and watching their reaction that close, you are certainly listening very well too.
You just brought up a great point that I see as a huge difference between, I feel like I'm going to outdate myself, but no, not
you
that
can't outdate me.
I'm not going to say back in the day, but even I feel like my generation was the last generation where you had to actually have soft skills and talk to people and develop those interpersonal skills from a young age. Because unless you had your own phone, most of the time you got your house phone, you're calling somebody else's house phone. So if you're calling a girl or even calling your homeboy, but especially when you're calling a girl, that's the first time you had to get your sales pitch together. You had to make sure that you're coming across. We'll talk about, being genuine. I want to dive into that as well. But you had to get your, like, hi, Mr. Brown. Like, this is David. It's Jessica. Like, you really had to.
Who?
You had to. Yeah. It's like, oh, well, I'm in 5th grade. I go to school with her. Who's this call? And you're really, that's the first time that you're developing those skills. Even from picking up somebody at their house. You couldn't just, text, I'm outside. You got to come in, introduce yourself. Everything's just so different now, where a lot of the kids, they're just so used to DMing, swiping left, swiping right, double tapping. They don't develop those skills to just talk, to read people, body language you mentioned, all these different things. Most of the time you have a conversation with somebody younger and they're looking down, they're kind of intimidated by it. And for whatever reason, now they're advanced in some areas, but this is one, the soft skills and the emotional intelligence. That's something that I see that our kids are really lacking.
It's funny. I don't know where I'm on that, because you learn from everybody in a different way, right? So I say my son is great with TikTok and everything else. And some of it at first you're like, what is this? And then you see this guy who's an influencer. We went one time to see Logan Paul before I even heard his name. He came to New York City. It was like the Beatles arriving. It was pandemonium. And at the time, he was really just doing things on YouTube and making videos. So I was old enough that I could have just said, this is stupid. What is this? But you realize these guys created an industry. So the way they communicate might be different. But that's like, even at my stage, like you get younger people coming into the company and wherever you're working, and they're very, very smart. They can handle a lot more. And some of them are like, hey, I'll handle a CEO problem tomorrow. And you got to reel them in a little bit, but they bring something to the table. And then the only way I think you can be successful is if you can move with those different generations and be open to hearing the way they think and how they communicate. So it's different to you. And it's funny because somebody showed this old picture and it was, here's a family, everybody's looking at their different screens, but they go back to some old black and white photo and it's all of these people holding a newspaper in their face. So they're doing the same thing, but it's like, you know what? It's not totally different. So I always try and, there's a little less of it. It's easier to text somebody. Sometimes you got to coach somebody and say, hey, did you follow up? Oh yeah, I emailed them twice. I didn't hear back from them. Okay. You got to call, make a phone call, go see them. So there's different skills, but like you said, try and learn from what they're great at and then help them on the ones that you think are important.
Now you see why he's a tremendous leader and CEO. The CEO adapting but that's a good point though, because even like as you're in the leadership position, you're adapting your style based on the talent that you have coming in.
Yeah.
So that way your entire team can reach your desired goal. It's almost like in school where now they're implementing different ways for, okay, every kid may not learn this particular way. So let me figure out some other creative ways to where this young man can learn. And even in your book, you discussed that you got to a certain point where you had to figure out your learning style.
Yeah, that's it. And it is funny because you said like, there's people today who just like, I got no use for math. I got no use for science. And they're going to be super successful probably in something else. So can the schools customize it and help them along the way? I don't know. But as a business, we have to, right? Because if this is your talent pool and this is the generation coming up, you need them to be your future leader. So you're going to have to adapt and go. And it's funny. We have a training tool. It's called Exonify. Not that it's a commercial form, but so it gamifies. Check it out. It gamifies the process of learning. So something that would have been a binder that somebody sat down and flipped through, now they give it a personality, and it's smarter because if they get the answer wrong, it brings them back another time. It gives them tutorial. So it's a game that they're used to seeing, but it's giving them good information. So you're kind of combining both. And that's the kind of stuff that has to keep evolving, because if you keep trying to force them into saying, this is how you got to learn it. And yeah, I did. I always looked at it and said, you think like everybody in school, it comes easy to them, the ones that are doing well. And you don't realize who's doing the work or who's just, somebody's just smarter than you. And that's okay too. But then you got to understand where the things that you're really good at, you can use them to excel. And maybe you're not going to have the highest grades in the class, and that's okay too. You know, you try and talk about that as a parent too, to say you're doing your best, you're doing everything you can, you're trying to get extra help. If your grade comes out to be a C, it is what it is. If you know you did 100%, you know, if you're half-assed and you didn't really study and, you know, it turns out to be a B, that's not good either. So, you know, you got to be able to push yourself and help everybody to do it at the speed that they're good at.
100%. And one thing I do want to touch on, you said the newspapers back in the day. You are right. I told you I was watching Wall Street.
Yeah.
I was watching the movie Wall Street with, what's the guy? Gecko?
Gordon Gekko.
Gordon
Yeah.
Gekko. This is the first time
Newsflash, he's just watching it now.
Last night, literally. And I didn't even finish it, but I saw that in the beginning of the movie, he's walking through the city, and the newspaper, I realized, replaced the phone.
Yeah.
Everybody walking through this, well, he's walking through and he's glued to the newspaper. So it is the same thing as the phone.
Yeah, a little different, but it's like, you know, we're not that much different, right?
Right.
But we adapt.
And I think that's almost like one of those things that can be seen like across life, where different people, we sometimes highlight our differences, whether it's generation to generation or whether it's just culture to culture, when, you know, if we can kind of create and focus on the similarities, then we'd probably be in a much better position.
100%. You know, as I got a little more exposure, like I don't travel other than work travel locally. So I even going to that program at Harvard, I said, I consider myself a travel illiterate because I wasn't all over the world. I didn't know all these countries. But getting exposure to people that come from other places, have different religions and different cultures, and hearing them talk with pride about what they do and understanding it. And they're so happy when you take an interest in it to tell you about their customs and everything. It's just very cool. And then you start to see it and notice it in other places. Oh, yeah, I know it's Diwali. That's why there's fireworks going out tonight. It's not somebody shooting off guns, you know? Mm-hmm. And it's something that I appreciate more and more as I go on and, you know, reading and listening to different things. It's just cool. It's just open up your mind. But you're right. When you're connecting with people and it's not like, oh, they're a Republican, they're a Democrat, or whatever they are, they're a good person, taking care of their family, trying to do the right thing. They want a safe place to be.
So we officially are running for office. Dorey Caldwell. I'm running for VP. He's running for president. We switched it up. I don't know if I need to wait a couple years. I forget the age, but we'll figure it out. But no, seriously, everything that you're discussing, it's almost like I want to grab my notepad and take down notes seriously, because everything that you just said, especially for the young people listening, it's how to become relatable with people. And I was reading a book over the last couple of days about how to choose a mentor, but you almost have to sell yourself to a mentor. You know, you get somebody who is at a certain level, they probably have a bunch of people asking like, hey, can you mentor me? But you have to get more specific. You have to learn about them, learn about what they're interested in, learn about what nonprofits they're interested in, learn about their hobbies, all these different things. And when you really take a genuine interest in their culture, in the things that they are interested in, it allows you to connect with them on a level that's not just surface based where, oh, I'm successful, so yeah, I want you to mentor me because you're successful. Yeah,
you're right. And they're looking at you, right? So that some people are not comfortable with it. And, you know, I was fortunate along the way, different people that helped me. And I think back too of people who tried to help me that I wasn't smart enough to know at the time that they were throwing out a helping hand, and I didn't see it or recognize it. But, you know, Dean Janeway, who was the former president of our company, you know, met him at the gym years ago. We had a group of people. We'd go real early in the morning. That's one of the things I tell everybody to get some discipline. You know, everybody you know who's doing well and succeeding has a program that they follow. It usually starts with waking up early and getting going. But anyway, I met him and he was super successful. We had a good rapport for years until he said one day, come work with us. And that was 20 years ago. And I love him. And I got to see him in action. And we didn't have a formal mentor program, but he just, you know, I saw how he treated people and what he did, and I learned from it, you know, and then you learn from other people. You know, I was at a dinner one night and the priest said, everybody's good for something, even if it's a bad example. And I think of people who didn't do the right thing, and I learned from them. And I was like, I'd see, you know, as a kid, some of those same people, I'd say, man, I don't ever want to have to live like that. I don't want to go to jail. That seems like a bad place. So I'm going to do these things instead. And so you're always learning. So that mentor, you got mentors every day that you may not even realize it's not some formal arrangement, But that's what I try and do with others too, is to give them the advice, the ones who want it. And the ones who never come back for it, that's okay too. Either they don't want it or they didn't recognize it like I didn't. And that's okay too. But, if you could keep throwing out, the lifelines and the helping hands, and 1, 2 people take it and you lift them up. And to me, I say all the time, to me, what success would be is, I'm at the end of my career and I look around and I could see tons of people succeeding that I had some small part in. Hopefully I help more people than the number of people that helped me.
I think that's a good way to look at it. That's an excellent way to look at it. And since we're on the topic of mentors, I want to ask you, if you had the 5 most influential people, and they don't have to be people that you knew personally, but just growing up, up to this point in your career, or just what kind of helped jumpstart you, change your mindset, who would those individuals be and why?
I tell you, my mother first, which, as always, I hear a similar question in places and I think of that. And she was a person who, had, limited education, raised 5 kids, worked all the time. She would give you the shirt off her back, literally. And when she passed away, I remember we lost her unexpectedly, and we had this deli at the time. And I was, all of these people showed up. I've been to a lot of wakes and funerals where there's a lot of people, but there was hundreds of people. And some of them drove a long distance and waited on a long line. And some of them would come up. And I remember one guy said to me, tough looking guy. I didn't really know him. And he said, "You know what? Your mom's was the only one that had anything nice to say to me most days." He said, he just knew her from coming into the store. And it just left such an impression on me that you could affect so many people without having some big title or anything else. So her for sure.
Mom won.
Yeah, mom won for sure. I mean, my whole family is as one group. I'm the youngest of 5. You get a lot of lessons, as you know, hard lessons and good lessons. And thank God we're all real close to this day, which is phenomenal. So my family and my wife and kids, everything I do is related to them. And that people say, "What's your hobby?" My hobby is my family. It really is. Because when you're not working, that's what I want to be doing. I mentioned Dean Janeway. Dean, phenomenal. He's just like an icon and just helps so many people. And even now, like, he's been retired for years. People call him, somebody I know is sick. Can you help him get to the right doctor? Yeah, he takes care of it. So those kind of guys. And it's just 5. I don't know. I mean, I look to.
We'll do the maybe follow up too. Keep it open.
Okay.
But I think you I think you have a strong core right there. Yeah. So no, it's there was one of the things that I wanted to go back and focus on, and it was in regards to helping kids choose their mentors and why it's so important to have certain mentors. And you mentioned a great point where you can get this mentorship from a lot of different places. So a lot of kids, they're stuck in they may feel that they're stuck in their environment. But in a lot of ways, they have access to things a lot more than us, because some of my mentors I've never met. They're just on YouTube. You know what I mean? And anybody that I can learn something from, I can place somewhat that mentor tag on them. So if you're a young kid, you tell me, what would you recommend as far as like them going out and getting mentors? And obviously it depends on what industry they're in, but
I'll tell you what. So like when you establish your career, you're in college, LinkedIn's phenomenal, right? You and I kind of met through that, and the resources that are out there are just phenomenal. People, you make a connection, you got something in common, you see their content. People who are doing things that you think you want to do, or doing things the way you think you want to do them, follow what they're doing. If you're younger, it's the same thing. You can get these influencers on YouTube. My son Anthony, he loves bodybuilding. He'll show me David Lade, and he's like, here's his videos. And it's like, you hear these guys, and they're young guys, and they're so well-spoken, and they got a message about whether it's fitness or about how to blow up online, and all of these different things you can learn from. So I would say content. I spend a lot of time in the car even still, and I just flip through all kinds of podcasts. Today I started one that was covering the Bible in 1 year. So they're reading the Bible and teaching you about it. I probably should have read it a lot sooner, but now I'm going to listen to it. But there's so many. It's like you could get a free PhD by just listening to all of the different content that's out there. You want to take classes, a Stanford professor for free online, you got no reason to not do it. So it's pretty wild. I think there's more resources than there ever was. So I think that's the way to do it. And it is to be on all the time. You could be playing a game for 5 hours a day. That's okay if that's what you want to do, but you could play the game for an hour and then spend 3 hours scrolling through different content, reading about the industry or the school you want to be in, reading about your favorite athlete, but get past the headline of what they did yesterday. Read about what kind of charities they're involved in, what kind of work routine they have, what's their family style like. And then you start to really see, just like I said, like from you learn a little bit about, oh, it'd be cool to play in the NBA. I think I want to do that. If you wanted to do that, you'd be working 24/7 and you would be just dedicating your whole life to it. So it starts to help you understand, I think I want to, own a company. Diary of a CEO is another guy I listen to. And he talks about the bad side. He sold his company for hundreds of millions, but he's like, the what I gave up to get there, that story never gets told, and you need to know it. So getting all of that content and speaking to people. I mean, you can go up to anybody. Young kid comes up to you and says, that one guy goes up and says, I like the car you drive. What do you do? Just learn about people. You're gonna just get so much, and it's just gonna put you in front of everybody.
And you spoke twice about a system, and that to me is something that I've noticed that the most successful people always have. They have a routine, they have a system, and they don't budge when it comes to that. And you tell me, you met one of your biggest breaks in the gym in the morning. Yeah. So it's funny. Went to a conference the other day, and it takes me back to my Stryker days when I was doing the medical device sales, and they used to always say, "Yeah, you have to go to the gym in the morning." And wasn't anybody in a leadership position. It was really just one of my boys saying like, yeah, you stay out all night partying, and then you get up and you go to the gym in the morning. And I'm like, go to the gym? I said, why would I go to the gym if I'm staying out? I need to get some rest. Yeah. And it was just a mindset. And it was just a standard. And just this past weekend, had a program maybe we'll touch on that you introduced me to. Think Billion, shout out to Howie P.
Yeah, Howie P.
But I saw a couple guys in the gym in the morning, and I was inspired by Howie P because we were up all day. It was like 7 to 9, and he's tagging me in his gym videos at 11 o'clock at night. And he's like, yeah, got to get it in, got to get it
pushing
in.
You.
Right. And then the next morning, there was a couple of us in the gym that were in the program. And, you made that eye contact where it's like, yeah, you're one of them too. Yeah. Like, and it just kind of, besides the fact that, it's already been proven that it makes you, be in a better mood or be more productive throughout the rest of the day. I think it just gives you that edge. It gives you that edge. And other people look for that in other people that they're looking to build with. So you touch on that.
It's crazy. I still do it, not as hard as you do it, obviously. Check out the arms. But in the morning, now it's at home, but it's a little setup. And it's crazy because even at this age, I'll say to myself, what are the other people in my position doing right now? Are they down here? Are they doing it? And it's like, maybe I don't need that, but to me, I say it to myself, which is probably psychotic, but it's what I do. A few years ago, I heard multiple people saying lemon water to start the day. I don't know why, but I drink lemon water every single day now. That's how I start my day. It's a routine. I kind of put in here too. I said one day, I'm going to put a smile on my face before I put my feet on the floor. That is going to be that's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to come down, and I think I do it probably 99% of the time, but it's just that routine. And there's people who talk about meditation. I don't do formal meditation, but the more I kind of learned about it, I'd say, I could be at the beach just kind of staring, and that's kind of it's a quiet time. It could be in the car even, but so that's another thing. So you see all these people saying, this is what I do all the time. And it's just the discipline. It's the on switch. It's just simple math. If you get an extra 2 hours out of every single day, your whole life, now I'm 53. It adds up to a lot of time. And it's the more people you meet. Journaling, which led me to writing this book, same thing. I heard 2-3 different people who were really successful say, every day I journal. That day I started, and I just started filling up books. I never gave myself a time off. And it's just funny. Like sometimes I'll be walking down into my basement now where I do the workouts, and I'm like, am I doing this? But it's just like, it's not even negotiable. And those strong routines they build discipline, which is what it takes. And that helps you in your job. You hear multiple stories of people who killed it in sales, and they're like, oh, I got to make 100 calls a day. I'll make 200. Just simply, I'll just double up. And there's a lot to be said for that. You don't have to be great. If you're consistent and you work more than everybody else, just over time, it's just that compounding and compounding. And yeah, I talk about kindness the same way. Compounding kindness. You do something good for me, and I do something good for 2 other people, and we keep. It makes things a lot better all around you, and people then want to be around you, and then the opportunities come to you.
I hope y'all are taking y'all notes. I'm telling you.
I hope you get one thing that makes sense.
But seriously, just when you talk about your system, it's not just about the competitive aspect is there, where you want to know, like, hey, I want to be. If I want to be different, if I want to create a life for my family that's different than everybody else, and I have to do different things. It's just the work you put in. That's what's going to get you, what you get out of it. But what stood out to you, what you said, and what I hear a lot of successful people saying, it's self-work. So it's the meditation. It's you're working on yourself first and foremost before you even encounter the world. You're getting out of before your feet hit the bed. You're making sure that you're smiling and showing the gratitude and appreciation for the day. Then you're going downstairs. Nobody really wants to do it. People think everybody just wants to work out. Nobody likes working out. Like nobody likes it.
I haven't met too many people that do. You're right.
Nobody likes it besides Anthony, your son. And we'll touch on Anthony. He's younger though, but no grown-ups don't like working out. But all this self-work that you're doing, to me, and you're right, it does compound. Yeah. The consistency, that's what, to me, sets your standard. And you're going to recognize it in yourself and continue challenging yourself, and everybody else is going to see it and want to perform to those same expectations.
And what you said, getting yourself right too. And you and I talk about Dale Carnegie stuff. I mean, you talk about timeless and some advice that just never changes, and it's always going to be. I mean, his books are 70 years old, but the one was, driving in traffic and somebody zipping by you and cut you off. And, younger, I'd be like, wanting to beep the horn and screaming at him and get myself nuts. And then his perspective was, wow, I'm glad I don't have to be in that much of a hurry. And, I don't have to drive unsafe like that. So now you sit back. So when I'm driving, I'm not getting, again, my family would say, I see you get, I get a lot less of it. And it's just like, it is what it is. Let it pass by you. I don't need to. I read a story just a couple weeks ago, 2 guys in a road rage, both started shooting guns at each other. Both of them shot their daughters in their cars. I'm saying, what the hell? They could have both went their separate ways and went home, and the world's better for it. So you can't let the stuff get you upset. And getting your head right is going to make you be better to everybody else. And when you're in, especially through COVID, everybody started to understand it then. I work in a supermarket business, and our people were out there doing it, taking care of everyone, and people really appreciated them. And they were so kind at that point. But short memories, and people say, oh, I got to wait online, or this is horrible. And it's just like, here's a person trying to do their best job. Be nice to them. Even if they get it horribly wrong, be nice to them. Be the person and say, hey, how you doing today? Everything good? Give them a smile, because that could be the difference in the day for them. And you don't know the struggle that's going on behind their head. So I'm always trying to put that perspective in it. My daughter Alex, we talk about that a lot too. And it's you give them a pass. They did this, they let you down. Give them a pass. Maybe you don't want to be around that person going forward. That's okay too. But you don't know what brought them to that, and just be glad that you're in a better place that you didn't need to get there.
It's the extending people grace. That's a big thing. Yeah. And you mentioned how you finished up. You never know what somebody else is going through, and it feels better. Of course, we're all like, I was on the phone with Verizon earlier today, and this
that
lady,
could frustrate
you know what I mean? But and it was more so because I'm at the phone store, I'm trying to pay, and the lady was nice, and I was talking to the Apple rep in the store, but she couldn't hear my conversation, so I was very short. I'm like, ma'am, I'm in a rush, I'm trying to pay off my phone. That's all. She's asking me all these questions, but she has to, and I get it, and eventually, I got the problem solved in about 2 minutes. It wasn't even long. But when I hung up the phone, and I was nicer towards the end, but as I hung up the phone...
You gave her the smile.
Right. As I hung up the phone, the Apple representative, she was standing there, and she said, yeah, like, I'm sure they were really mean on the phone. Or made it seem as if, like, they were just frustrating me. And I said... You know what? Actually, she was nice. And it was just
then
more
you felt
me.
Worse.
You know what I mean? I felt bad. I was like, actually, she was nice. But, you just... It's like I'm sitting there and I'm like, why am I even getting upset? Yeah. But I appreciated her. She didn't throw it back. She was very nice. So it almost made me feel like I should be nice. Like, so.
That's the reminder you needed for the day. Yeah.
And it's the energy, that energy, and it's so important to walk in rooms and just make people feel good.
And that, that leads to, again, it's all this classic advice, like holding grudges. Somewhere it was said, holding a grudge is like eating rat poison and waiting for the other person to die. Because you're walking around miserable thinking about what Dak did to me. I can't believe he did it. I can't. And you forgot it happened. You're walking around having a great day. And you're like, why do you want to let somebody in your head like that? Don't let it go. Again, all of this stuff is easy, but you're like, you don't understand this situation, what they did. You're right. I don't. There's some people that do some really bad things, but you try and let it go and just don't let it screw up your whole day. It might be a bad second, but there's not going to be worth it. Nothing good's going to happen from you being mad and screaming and yelling and kicking.
And it's not good leadership qualities. It doesn't look good in any way to anybody. And reading Ryan Blair's book, and he said that either you're in control or you're out of control. And to me, it's like so simple, but it's like, am I out of control in this situation? Am I letting my emotions get to me? Am I treating this person how I should be treating them, how I would want to be treated in this position? And it just allowed me very black and white. Sometimes things need to be black and white for me, where it's like, well, I was kind of, no. Are you in control or are you out of control? Are you letting your emotions get the best of you? So that's something that I'm always looking for different things to give me gauges.
Listen, you're always wise beyond your years. And that is one, is if you got a team or you're leading a company, they're looking to you. Everybody could be great when the water's real calm. Hey, we're sailing along. This is great. Look, the boat starts rocking and everything's going wrong and you're taking on water. If the captain starts freaking out and yelling and screaming and panic that's not good. You want a captain that says, no, hey, we trained for this, right? We got this. Here's what you're going to do. And then everybody says, and now I look at those times and I say, this is another opportunity for me to show, why I'm here, why I'm good at what I do, and what your worth is. So you kind of look at those now and say they're opportunities, because every day something's going to happen. Sometimes 2, 3, 4 things. We have people that work in our company, they're going to get 7 emergencies in a day. If you let the first one set you off, every day is going to be a bad day. You're going to hate what you do. If you look at it as an opportunity to help people, I'm going to fix it. I'm going to show them why I'm the leader. Then it's just like, hey, you know what? You just keep building yourself up through the day. Nothing's unexpected.
And it's a privilege to be in that leadership position, because you have a larger impact on steering the ship. But that can be negative or positive depending on how you approach it. So this same book that I'm talking about, they were saying that if we come in, or let's say you're on the job as a leader, and you may just be uncomfortable or panicking, but you're not really losing it. But if your employees, the people following you, see you panic slightly, they're going to lose their minds. And it's going to really it's compounding, exactly where you're just thinking I'm just a little upset. They're thinking like it's much bigger. But the good thing is it works like that on the positive side as well. Yeah. So that's a lot of good takeaways. I want to get into your kids.
Sure.
I want to get into your kids. You
one
being
of my
a
favorite
father.
Topics.
One of your favorite topics. He has 2 amazing children.
Thank you.
Shout out to Alex. Shout out to Anthony. Like I said, that's my family.
Yes, it is.
But you being a father, and I'm sure people are looking at it, they're probably like, yeah, I would love for this. Like, I want him to be my dad. You know what I mean? He's just so chill.
He's
just so chill, right? I'm sure he's like this all the time, right?
Yeah.
But seriously, your leadership style, how has that affected you being a father? And how has that taught you certain lessons, and vice versa? The lessons that you learned from being a father, how has that made you a better leader?
Yeah, that's great. That's a great way to phrase it. And I think, when you're a parent, you're growing up with the kids, right? Because you might be 25, you might be 30 when you have a kid. On average, maybe younger, maybe a little older, but you're growing up. You're still learning. And nobody. I always laugh. I say you got to take a test and get a license to drive a car, but a kid they'll just give you for having a is born and you get to be a parent, which is crazy. But it's a process. You learn. It's, I would say all of the enjoyment that I had in my life, the best things that have come from it are from my wife and my kids. And that is watching them grow up and watching them evolve. And you make mistakes and you see them get hurt. You see them not get what they want sometimes. And that hurts you more so. You start to understand, so as a leader, you feel more, you're more empathetic. You start to understand different things. Sometimes the message that you give, like you said, like anybody's parents, your parents tell you something, it may mean nothing to you. You hear it from somebody else, and then it's like, oh, yeah. And you're like, wait, I was telling you that all along. So, and I tried along the way, to just, share different things. If I read something that makes sense, I try and say, hey, this is something in all my years, this was something I learned from. You could learn it sooner. And, one of the ones I used to always say to them is, what other people's opinion is of me is none of my business. And it was like just that confidence that you have. Like, I don't care if you think I don't dress right, or I'm not the best at this, or you don't like me. That's you. That's not me. So you learn from that. And then I think on becoming a leader in business, I say everybody's got a family. They came to work to do a job to take care of their family. So it doesn't matter what your title is or what theirs is. Neither one of us is more important. We're both just trying to take care of our families. So treat them with the respect. Learn from them where you can. Take interest in them, because, you ask about my kids, I start to glow. You ask about their family, and that's what they're proud of, and that's what they want to talk about. So that helps you to get better. And again, watching them grow in the different stages that they learn at, it helps you to be better at communicating. And I used this story the other day, and I mention it all the time. When Anthony was real little and just learning to ride a bike, we're finally going to the street, and he's got the training wheels, and we're driving, and there's curbs are like the side, the stones on the side of the street. So he's young, and I'm saying, stay closer to the curb, and he's drifting to the middle of the street. And I say, Anthony, stay closer to this curb. And drifting again. So the third time, not as patient as I am today. I say, hey, if you don't stay close to the curb, you're getting off your bike. And he, turns around his little head and he says, what the heck is a curb? And I'm like, yeah, he don't know. He's 4 or 5, whatever it was. So it's just one of those things that sticks with me today to say, if somebody doesn't understand what I'm saying, I'm not saying it right. So those are just, there's a million of them. But again, I'm thankful for, they inspire me to do it every day. And, you can only be as happy as your kids and your family are.
Mm-hmm. Damn.
And thank God, healthy,
Parent advice, CEO advice, it's all the same.
Listen, maybe some of it's good. I take advice from everybody. Mm-hmm. So my answers can change every day.
Mm-hmm. And it should be. That's something that
we're evolving.
I always try to make sure that I don't have the same answer last year that I had this year. But sticking with the kids, your oldest child is a daughter.
Correct.
Alex, and then you have Anthony. When it comes to Alex, as a man raising a daughter, obviously it's a little different than raising Anthony, I would assume. But with raising a daughter, is the example that you set, like, do you hold, does that make you want to, because you're setting an example for what?
This is a question for Sam. She might give totally different answers. No, I'm kidding.
But seriously, you as a dad, obviously you want to, when I have kids, whenever that happens, I want to make sure for my daughter that I'm setting an example.
Yeah.
Not necessarily just spoiling her, but just setting her example for, how a man, should be. Maybe that's.
Well, listen, I say the one that I hear that makes the most sense to me is parenting. What the kids learn from you is caught, not taught. So you could tell them whatever you want, but they're watching you every day. And when I would lose my temper, Sam would tell me that too. Hey, that's not, you can't do that. And again, you always try and get better and better at it. I was fortunate. My sister is 12 years older than me. She's the oldest. I'm the youngest. She's 39. No, I'm just kidding.
She's 39.
Yeah.
Stick with it.
But her kids, my nieces and nephews, when they were born, I was around them a lot. So I got to be around little infants, and my niece Marissa is phenomenal, superstar too. And I got to see, how you treat, the boys were roughhousing with them, the girls were different with them, but you got to see a different example. And, it's not a lot different. Be good, be nice, be kind, listen to them, do what they want to do, always have energy to get up and play with them, never say no, and it all works out. So I don't think it was a ton different. It's harder with boys. Maybe you're a little tougher and you want them to compete more at certain stuff. But Alex was crazy in cheerleading too, so she was super competitive with that. And they both have super qualities, similar but different.
Let's stick to that. When it comes to something I think a lot of parents can learn from, maybe the kids too, but placing I see it a lot when it comes to my friends and just people that I went to school with that weren't necessarily, how can I put this? I got to word this the right way.
You're being a politician now.
Yeah, but no, I'll just say it. They were disappointed with how their high school, college careers, whatever, went. So they placed just put so much pressure on their kids to be, they were in like 4th, 5th grade, and it's going to be the next Michael Jordan. That's going to be the next LeBron. That's going to be the next
There's a lot of them out there.
Superstar football player.
A lot of them out there.
How do you deal with that? Because it's tough for the kids, because a lot of times the kids, they see their parents. If the only thing my dad gets excited about is watching football on Sunday, then what do I want to do?
Yeah.
I want to make my dad proud,
No, you're right. And they're seeing that. And I tell you, some of it is if you get the opportunity to coach them when they're real little, like little kids want to have fun. So the guy who thought he was the superstar baseball player, he's trying to teach them, how to throw a curveball when they're 4 years old. Soccer, I got to coach him at a certain age. I'm not even qualified to coach him. But when Anthony was little and I was little, I'm like, hey guys, all we're going to do, move the ball that way, get it that way. And it was have fun. And that's what you do. And you see some bad influences, a bad coach early on that's got the wrong, that wants to be the superstar. It could turn a kid off from activities forever. And then that's tough. You don't want that. But yeah, I think you got to, the hard part is if you do well in life and you're doing things now, this year is my best year of my life ever. And next year is going to be better. So I'm not looking and remembering high school and saying, oh man, I was this. And I was we were somewhere recently and these guys were talking about games in 6th grade. And I'm thinking,
let me get out of here.
After a couple of minutes, I'm like, I can't even believe it. But it's listen, and people enjoyed that. And that's great. And to reminisce is cool. But yeah, don't put that on them. And it's just like, do what you want to do. Be good at something. Work hard at it. You may be working super hard, but just be in the middle of the pack. That's okay. It is what it is. Work hard, enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, try something different. Always be involved in something. And it might not be, in the end, there's certain kids that don't want to do any sport. All right, then do a club. Just be active in something. Be good about it. Just like when you get a job, go out there, talk to people, do good things, and it's going to work out. But yeah, it's weird. Kids' sports turned into a business a long time ago. And there's a lot of people who, my son's going to be a 4-time state champ. I said, well, how many win so far? Okay, all right, he didn't win 1 yet, so win 1. And then let's talk about 4. But people do get caught up in it, and you see it in the kids' faces. And when they're spending $200 to have them spend an hour with a hitting coach, what is that saying? The parents get mad if they're not hitting. They're mad that they're spending the money. The kid's frustrated. They want to hit. So the whole thing just gets really crazy. And it's you hope that gets better, but sometimes like a pickup league or a flag football league turns into more fun than anything because the parents aren't there.
Right. And you learn the lessons. That's what sports is really all about. And I think a lot of us get, distracted, by, I don't know. I'm not blaming Instagram anymore, but just get distracted by the wrong things and not understanding like sports is just like anything else. It's a tool to teach you certain lessons and skills that you can apply for the rest of our lives. And I don't think that we're necessarily focusing as much on the skills. We're just focusing on stuff that is so like beyond where we are right now. It's like you're in 6th grade and you're already spending your first check, your kid's first check when they make it to the NFL or when they make it to the NBA and all these things. And I don't know. One thing that, I guess I'm using you to prove my point or to make a point because
I hope I prove it right.
No. And I'm going to ask you a question because kids, there's things that as parents, and I can't say as a parent, but I can say as a kid, but the things that your parents take interest in and that are on you about and congratulating you about, that's what you want to make them proud in. So if you're only interested in their sports, then that's what they're going to focus on. That's what they're going to practice all day. That's what they're going to invest most of their time in. But if you're also interested in maybe some tech stuff and coding or chess or, let's learn about the trucking industry this week and let's read a Dale Carnegie book or, maybe we make it a little more interesting, but those are interesting. And I think that from a young age, if we just expand and diversify the things that we're showing interest in, it can bring out a lot more in our kids.
Yeah, listen, we always joke. I say, you're going to be some father. You got lots of advice and you're going to be phenomenal.
I don't know if I'm going to take it.
Yeah, you might change it by then. But listen, find something that they're interested in and then encourage them to do good things with it because it's hard. We were talking about it earlier. I have 3 older brothers and they were all real good at sports. So, and baseball in particular. So when I come along, they just assume you're going to be good. And whether you liked it or not, you're playing and there's a standard there for you. So if you're not up to it, you disappoint everybody. So you don't want to put people in that situation. It's like, let's try it. Give it a shot. You like it? Great. No, we used to joke when the kids were little. My daughter played a little softball, and they got a hitting coach. It's $50 an hour. I said, listen, I'll spend money on a tutor long before I'm going to spend teaching somebody teach my daughter how to hit a softball. But there's people who do it, and that's right for them. It's great, and sometimes it works out great. But you hope it's the kid that's pushing that wants to do it. And if they're saying, hey, I want to be the best pitcher in the world, you kill anybody and do everything you can do to get them to that spot. So bring them to camps, bring them to leagues, and that's phenomenal because there's some kids that thrive on it. And like you're talking about, giving them that drive. There's some kids that really have it from the youngest age. And then every parent, I would say, yeah, encourage it as much as you can. But everybody's different. Some of them love video games, and you say, oh, you spend your whole life playing video games. Maybe they're gonna make a career out of it, make millions.
Now you can.
Yeah. Now you got people following you on YouTube for money. So I just say try and understand what interests them, and show them what interests you, and hopefully you find some common ground.
Yeah. Show them some support. And
yeah.
Kind of let them fly.
They got a lot of pressure. It's crazy. You see so many crazy stories in the news about these kids thinking they got real issues at a young age, and to them it is real. But you think, man, just there could have been something to help them to realize it wasn't the end of the world.
Right. All right. So we're gonna finish up with a question that I got from your son, and because I reached out, I said, Anthony, man. I'm interviewing your pops.
He didn't even warn me.
I'm interviewing your pops. What's one question that I should ask him? And he wanted to mainly focus on the fact of sacrifice. Sacrifice and betting on yourself. That you've taken certain risk in your life to get you to this point. And I imagine that you have to have a certain level of confidence to do that. You talked about just changing different industries, changing different jobs. Every time you make a change, you're betting on yourself that I'm going to put in enough work in that new situation to make it better than the last. Tell me about it.
Man, Anthony, you're deep. That's a great question. And thank you for always helping him and taking interest in him.
He's my guy.
Yeah, no, he's the best. I'll tell you what, I'm realistically optimistic. So when somebody calls me, I haven't heard from in a long time, I just assume it's some great opportunity to bring me. Other people are like, why would you assume that? I'm like, because that's what it's going to be. And I'm going to just push and drive. And like I said, I'm going to make bad decisions, but I'm going to go forward. So, Just Keep Swimming is moving forward constantly. Well, I talked to a lot of friends who, when I first wrote this book, they're like, oh my God, I always wanted to write a book. How did you do it? I said, you know how I did it? I'm going to give you the secret. Listen, I started. I said, today I'm going to do it. And my wife, since she said to me when it was done, she goes, I didn't even know you were writing a book. I said, well, I'd rather show you than tell you, right? I want to just get it done. But so that it's part confidence. Sometimes you're going to get scared, but I'm just always assuming the next stop's going to be the best stop. I'm going to keep moving forward. We used to joke when we got engaged, I had changed careers. When we bought a house, I changed careers. When we had a kid, and my wife, and you need somebody who's by your side who supports you, and she did, and she never doubted. So she had the confidence too, and that gives you more for yourself. But we just kept pushing. Oh, sorry. No, we just kept pushing and pushing, and it's. I'm ready to do the work. You know on the field, you're ready to. Somebody's gonna have to kill you to take your position. And if you got that instinct in your head all the time and you're ready to do more, it's gonna work out. And guess what? If it doesn't, that same attitude is gonna get you. It may take 2 more months or another year, but that attitude is gonna get you. You're gonna get past everybody because it's just a difference maker. And you get more confidence over time. But I would say to everybody, you can succeed. You got the tools that you need to do it. Whatever the room you find yourself in, just be listening, be open to getting a helping hand, and it works out. It's just so I thank Anthony for stumping me. I'm gonna smack him for not giving me a heads up so I could prepare. But no,
appreciate you, Anthony.
No, that's great, Ant.
Yeah, and everything that you just said, I think it's a good way to finish up with a lot of advice that we all can take from it. And obviously the podcast is all about elevating in different ways. But I'm going to have you finish off. And I was kind of playing with it in my head.
Don't make me rap the song. I know it, but I can't say it. No.
But I want you to tell me what your life is going to look like a year from now. It may be the same. It may be more consistent in different areas, but I always got to put the challenge out there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know what's funny? You hear a lot of these, well, what are you trying to drive to? What are you trying to get to? Things are very good right now. I love the people that I work with. I love the family I got around me and the friends that I have. I got good health, thank God, and that's never a given for anybody. So I just want to help more people. I want to learn more, read more books. Help the company that I'm in the role for to do better for the family, because they're phenomenal people. And it's just doing more of what I'm doing. And like I said, these last few years, every one of them's just been great. It's, I get to deal with really good people. You start to understand the people who you should deal less with. And I get in a role where I get to do that. So just anytime I get more time to enjoy with my family is a good thing. You do make sacrifices. There's times when you got to be where you got to be. And there was years where I did some real grinding that was much more of that. Mm-hmm. I'm thankful that's not the role, and I would never take another role. Even somebody come to me today and say, "Hey, we'll triple what you're making to do this, to travel all over the place." That's not something that's success for me. So that would not be a good next step for me. So keep doing what I'm doing, spending more time with you. 100%. Podcasts, writing books, mm-hmm. and just talking to good people and just helping people.
Everybody, I need y'all to understand this is who he is on this podcast, in life. It's just amazing to be able to have the relationship with you. We didn't even get into, we'll save it for the part 2, all the different charity work that you're into. Shame on me for not bringing that up, but everything that, real quick, I gotta mention this before we end it. But I remember reaching out to you last year, and I just said, like, hey, do you need anything? Like, is there anything that I can help with? And you said, I said, well, what are you working on right now? What's the main focus? And you said, well, it's really, helping out a lot of the college kids at Montclair State, who it's a problem, but not a lot of people talk about it, with a lot of students don't have money for food. And that was just an example of, I'm over here figuring out and worrying about, how I can make more money and how I can do this. And I asked you, somebody that I look up to, and, it's that just set the tone on your character, for me. And it was just one of those things where it's just like, damn, like this guy's superhuman. So listen, I appreciate it.
Doing what people did for me, and just that example, because you brought it up. So Montclair State, I found out they had a food pantry, and I'm thinking, how sad is it that kids are going to college, they're making that effort, and they don't have food to eat? That's just, so I want to do more than what I do, but it's just something that was on my radar, and I'm saying, man, and I'm sure it's at a lot of other schools and other places, and it was just a need that I didn't really think of until somebody put it in front of me. So everybody does what they can do, for sure. But now this is awesome. I was your first guest. I'm the best one so far. I know that for sure.
You will always be the best one. And besides, waking up every day, like you said, with a smile on your face, whenever I ask you how your day is, it's a good day. I got some new challenges. You approach it like you're excited about it while I'm over here ripping my hair out and stuff. So everything, we're definitely going to have you back, because I think everybody can learn so much from you, just like I do. This is the most selfless person that I know, giving person that I know, whether it's giving in any area, but most importantly, just giving me the game and giving me the energy and love. So I appreciate you, big bro.
I appreciate it, bro. It's fun watching you just blow up and explode and do great things. And it's been awesome. Thanks, everybody, for giving us time, too.
Let's build together.
Let's do it.
All right.
Elevate.
We here. Big fish shit. Ooh, ooh.
Welcome to the podcast. Hope y'all enjoy it. Hope y'all learn something. And most importantly, we hope y'all elevate. Let's get it.
Big fish, hit a big lick. We gon' bet it right back and hit a big flip. We been up for a minute and we still lit. Yeah, them cats gon' talk, but we don't feel shit. We just giving y'all gems y'all can live with. Elevate your mind, never mind all the bullshit. Finna talk about stocks, we ain't worry about